back to Stand the Theme, where today I'm interviewing a very special guest. His name is Brett Clements, and he created the board game called Atmosphere and also the board game called Rap Rat.
I
Hello,
did
Brett.
pretty
How are
good.
you?
I'm good, mate. Yourself?
I'm good.
How's it
So
sound?
it's all right. It's not. I think I can understand you, which is good.
You think I've actually got I work out of a Ford Transit van. It's a big 430 dual wheelbase. I've decked it up. When COVID hit, no one wanted to go into the office, so I decided to spend the money we'd normally spend on rent on a van. So I spent about $250,000 doing this thing up, and it's got a sound studio in it, which
Yeah.
is where I go and record character voices every now and then. I don't know what my neighbours think of me. You know, if you hear some of the conversations from that van, you probably go, the FBI would be on to me, Stan. They'd be going, lock that fucker up real quick. He's a danger.
Yeah. So I mean, for the regular viewers, who are you? What do you do? Um.
Okay. Well, my name's Brett,
Yeah.
and I come from. Both my parents were artists. That's how they met. They met at the Civil Aviation as draftsmen. They were both artists, so I inherited the that bug. And my dad was a painter, so I always drew. I drew. I was all through as a kid. I actually drew. Believe it or not, and it closes the loop here. I was fascinated in an anatomy, so I would draw the human heart and the brain and lungs. So I was about 5 or 6, but I drew all these human organs. Anyway, I grew up drawing. I found a drawing the other day I'd done at 11 years of age. Like 50 years ago, 11 wasn't didn't have a lot of technology.
Yeah.
We didn't have iPhones. We had pencils. But I found a magazine I'd actually created with a couple of staples, and and some drawings in that. So obviously I fancied myself as a media tycoon at 11. I kept drawing, and I was a journo. I became a journalist. If I hadn't become a journalist, I'd probably gone to jail because I was a juvenile delinquent. But journalism sort of like set me on the straight and narrow. It gave me something to terrorize people with, I suppose, officially. So I was a journo, and then I had a kids show called Wonderworld for 5 years. And on that kids show, I was doing a story one day on a board game called Teacher's Quiz. And I said to the guy, "Oh, why don't we do an Australian quiz and we can put it in an esky, which is a cooler, a 6-pack." So I drew this game up and researched it, and it sold 250,000 units. So I was getting wealthy checks in the mail for $1.75. I'm going, what the fuck's this? Like all I did was draw, and I've made $250,000. So then we did Brit Quiz, and that sold a lot of games, about under 500,000. And then I did Dare, that game Dare, board game Dare. And I'd always wanted to do a horror, and I made more money. I made a lot of money. So I'm driving around in a yellow Porsche. Obviously, I didn't have any taste, but I had money. It's the first time I've told the story like this, Stan. So there you go.
Oh, thank you.
Anyway, no worries. And so I was on Wonderworld, and so I was learning how to make film like every day. Wonderworld was a
Yeah.
kids, Simon Townsend's Wonderworld, and every day we had to get up and go out and make a 3.5-minute film story. And we're shooting on reversal film, 16mm reversal, which is very unforgiving stock. So I learned how to make television. So this all coincides in a minute. So I'm sitting there one day, and I'd always wanted to do a game on horror. I don't know, you wouldn't remember, but we had a game out. It was the haunted house, and it had these little green luminescent ghosts, and you moved them around in the house. I thought that was fantastic. So I really wanted to make a horror game. So I did the game, the art Nightmare. I had an artist do it all, and we had it all airbrushed up. And for some reason, I've always been fascinated in graveyards. I don't know why. Maybe I was an undertaker in a previous life. But I made the whole board, with Nightmare in the middle. And it sat on my desk for a year because I just could not work out the gameplay. I mean, how could a piece of cardboard scare somebody? Really hard. Anyway, I'm at gym one day, and like I'm thinking, you kind of, as an artist, you think about shit, and this thing's obviously fermenting. And I went, bam! If we used the VHS as a clock, a timer, then the game would have a duration. And if we had a host, he could deliver instructions. And because you're playing a game and you agree to play the rules, then he could get you to do pretty much anything, and you'd have to do it because you agreed to play by the rules. It's a bit like playing football, you can't run backwards. Well, you probably can, but anyway. But you get the drift. Yeah. So I could establish rules, and it all came like a bolt from the blue. I mean, I'm a firm believer in, all these ideas are out there, and they kind of come to you. You're a lightning rod if you're open to it. Artists are particularly sensitive creatures, and if your antennas are tuned, you can pick up what's happening. If I hadn't have done the video board game, someone else I think would have done it because its time was there. So I kind of picked up on that idea, and I remember I rang Philip and I said, I've got it, and we went into the office, and I explained it to him, and he's, yeah, right, yeah. Okay. But I had money, so I actually financed my own pilot. And I wanted to use Wananti Nozzle. He did the Guinness ads, and he was really disturbing on television. He used to come on the Australian TV screens and just go, I like to watch. And I went, yes. He was really fucked up unit. And I thought, we couldn't afford a lot of money. I couldn't afford props or anything like that. And, I could afford a headshot. Because, we were shooting on tape. So we got Wananti in, and he agreed to do the game, and I wrote the game out and tested it. I had a bunch of mates come around. They sat in the lounge room, and I sat out in the sunroom with a microphone yelling instructions. Again, if anybody had seen this, what the fuck? But I mean, the general concept worked. People would stop, whose turn is it next, or mine, and you abuse them, and it was good fun. And the more pissed we got, the more insulting I got. Anyway, we knew that the essence was work, so we went and shot it. We shot the pilot, and the first nightmare, we couldn't really afford prosthetic makeup, so we kind of lit Wananti green and had him hooded. And for some unknown reason, I thought that if I every now and then reverse the tape and he talks backwards, that would be fits. But no one could fucking understand what he was saying. But the concept worked. And we went to Village Roadshow. They're a big cinema distributor here. Because I went to my regular board game manufacturer, Crown and Andrews, and they just went, sorry, you're on crack. Well, it probably was. No, that was later. But and Roadshow got it. A guy called Milt Barlow and Greg Carmock, who's gone now, but they got it. They got it like that. And all of a sudden, I had a big film distributor behind us, and I said, look, what I want is to be able to hit the market with a whole lot of ads, and because they were a film supplier with VHS cassettes, they release movies and stuff. I got a Nightmare trailer on every single home video in Australia. Wow. And then Greg, it was like we just swamped the market, and they owned all these cinemas. So whenever you walked in there was this creepy cat yelling at you, stop, fuck. Just having the chalk top. Anyway, we had Greg hit the plane, and he went right around the world, and he to license this thing. And this is a true story. All this is true that I've told you. And he met this company in Canada, Toronto, called Chieftain, Tom Vernon. And Tom Vernon had discovered and released Trivial Pursuit. So he was an icon. And I remember Tom walking through this factory with me in Toronto, and he said, at one point in time, this entire factory was full of Trivial Pursuit. I was only drip feeding them out. because he wanted to create tension on the market. So he only would release 6 here and there. And he said, and he licensed Nightmare for $12 million US. So I was standing in the snow in Toronto going, I'm just worth $12 million bucks, just make $2 million bucks. And the game was going gangbusters in Australia and the UK. And I think we signed up about 30 or 40 million minimum guarantees. So, I was looking at becoming a very rich man.
Yeah.
And Australia was going really well. Anyway, 2 weeks out from the toy fair, Tom Vernon died of cancer, and with him, all those contacts. So the whole internet, or the whole American thrust for Nightmare fell apart, and they defaulted on all the payments, and I was back to being, poor.
Wow.
So that was it. And then we tried a couple of years later. The game got licensed as Atmosphere by Mattel, another true story. And the then CEO of the board game arm, he was out in Australia, and he was always looking over his shoulder. He's looking really dodgy, and when we went to a restaurant, he'd always sit and, make sure he had a view of the door. I'm a New Yorker, so, I can understand that. Anyway, we turned up for the New York Toy Fair, Atmosphere, we had the Rockettes, fucking TVs everywhere. Anyway, the guy gets arrested by the FBI for insider trading on Baby Bell. And there we go. And then our second opportunity to smash America goes walking out the door in handcuffs.
Something doesn't want you to get Atmosphere in Australia.
No, America.
Oh, America, sorry.
That was the case, yeah. So we never managed to... we've got a big fan base. It's got a big fan base. I don't talk to Philip anymore, obviously. He has re-released the game more times than Harry has released documentaries on himself. And every one of them's failed fucking miserably. I think they had a Kickstarter campaign recently. They raised $250,000 and they offered me $2,000 to write it. I'm like, fuck off. So anyway, I lost my copyright on the game when...
Oh, really?
Yeah. We had a very dodgy accountant. Her name was Lynette McPhee. She was actually she ran the biggest tax scheme in Australia's history. It was called the Feds investigated. It was called Operation Wickenby. It was the biggest tax fraud investigation in Australia's history. She went to jail for 15 years, Lynn. She was my accountant. And she took my copyright and gave it to my partner because I decided to go to America and they didn't want me to do it. So anyway, that kind of ties that up. And here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
How long did that take? 6 minutes?
Yeah, I think about 6 minutes.
Just getting a commercial break now.
Commercial time, yes.
Fancy a game?
My game. I am the gatekeeper. Roll the dice.
The interactive board game hosted by a video for everyone aged 12 and over.
Think you can win?
Atmosphere.
I think not.
A thrilling race against time and the gatekeeper.
Let's party.
Okay, hello, welcome back.
Yeah, you can put some extra bottom.
Yeah.
Maybe the FBI will give you a banner ad.
Yeah. So that's your previous projects. But what is your current project? What are you working on now?
Well, during my day job is actually I'm a cinematographer. I shoot 20 million buck properties, which is a blessed life. And I'd actually built that company up. It was called Platinum HD PropVid, and we had 17 offices. I had offices in Los Angeles, quite big shooting property. But I couldn't control the when you have that many offices, I couldn't control the quality, and I'm really big on quality, so I closed that down. So my day job is filming 20 million baht properties and tourism stuff. So I'm really blessed. I get to travel and travel around Australia and shoot stuff. And I used to shoot on red, the whole system, and cinema lenses, and I was a camera wanker. I had the latest greatest lenses and shit. And I've been watching the iPhone. I've always had an iPhone, and I've always tested the cameras on an iPhone. And I was leaving a property with the iPhone 12, and I just took a photo of this property on the way out, and I went, "That's pretty good." Like we're fucked. The iPhone's coming. Really, it was like bam. And that was the 12, and I started shooting the 13 properly. And the 14 was just, get out of town. I went to Perth recently about 6 months ago, and I shot everything. I just left the big cameras at home, sold them the cinema lenses, fucked the red off, and I've been shooting everything on an iPhone.
Wow.
14 Pro, it needs a lot of, I have a lot of light to make it work because, I'm waiting for the 15 Pro Max. That's going to lob here in about 10 days. But the 14 Pro has just been a remarkable device, especially for property, because everything's in focus. And, if you look at property, they like everything in focus. They hate shallow depth of field. They go, why is that fuzzy? Well, it's actually bokeh, it's cinematic. Go, well, I want that in focus, real estate, everything going to be in fucking focus, and sharp focus. So the iPhone does that brilliantly. Everything's in focus. You can zoom an ant up in the background and I'm in focus. So it's excellent. So I've been shooting. That's what I've been shooting as my day job. And at night, I've been drawing. I started drawing when I had cancer properly, because I had they wanted to re-release Quiz. So, and I was a traditional artist, so I had paper and pens everywhere. I'd fill a room with fucking, you'd retrace and retrace and retrace, and I couldn't find any application with a stylus that felt like a pencil. And then when iPad released the iPad Pro and that pencil, like that applied for Apple, it just felt awesome. And I started drawing Quiz again. We didn't end up releasing it because I just didn't want to do it. I just didn't feel the game was right. But I learned to draw on the iPad. And then when I got cancer, I was on chemo for about, they sit you in this chair and pump you full of chemo for about 8 hours, and then you got to go home. Because it's chemo to go now. It's like Macca's. They give you a bottle of chemo, and you put it in your pocket, and it pumps straight into your heart. So, I was on chemo for 18 months. So I just started drawing more and more and more. And again, a bit like Nightmare, I didn't know where it was coming from. I drew this really old house, a haunted house, obviously, because I like haunted houses. I divided it up into 10 levels, and every level was a different world. And then from that, I kind of started developing up the concept of a game. And then I just kept drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing, and it evolved into Crookwood. It was Carny Island, and then Crookwood was one level. Now I'm calling it the Crookwood, and it's it's a game. At the heart of it, it's a game. You rob graves and you steal body parts. Hence my love of autonomy, hearts and lungs, and you sometimes some body parts are old, and you got to bring them back to life by putting them in a fish tank and feed them. I've got 5 hearts, and they're at the fish tank at the back. I told you the guy fucking freak. Lock him up. Anyway, so you robbed graves, you stole body parts, and fed them and made up zombies. And then I had a dog in it, and then the dog started getting more of a personality. It became a mongrel, and he's actually had a lot of lives, or previous lives, because cats have lives, and he's kind of like, well, I've got lives. I've had lives too. I was a rocket scientist. I was a holy man, and he kind of runs the graveyard. Does he's smart, so he. There used to be a pizza shop, and he's turned that into it used to be a crematorium, and he's turned that into a pizza shop. So he's smart. And then he's got Uncle Shrift, and Uncle Shrift's kind of like a fuck you to Nightmare. And he's a failed video board game host who inherited a graveyard, and he's a cannibal. So he He eats the people when they're dead. Mungle doesn't know that he eats the people. So that's kind of the basis of a pretty dark sitcom. At the heart of it, though, is every episode is and this is my wife's challenging. She's going, look, you got to have a story. You can't just have thousands and thousands and thousands of fucking drawings. She's got to have a story, and it was really challenging for me because I'd never animated a story before. But the iPad Pro and Adobe Fresco. I don't know whether you've used that app. Adobe Fresco.
I know of it.
Yeah, it's a vector app, so it was important for me to be able to draw in vector because that way, if I drew something, that small, you can scale it up to cinema and everything. I've got thousands of drawings, and they're all. It's a huge game, but I've got to now introduce that to the public. And you could go to Kickstart, and I could have kickstarted a campaign, but I didn't really feel the game had a soul, like a proper. So I thought every game's got to be about a person, and a person that dies and ends up at Crookwood. And then, what happens to their body, and then their body goes into the ground. And if you know the backstory, you may or may not want to rob Vinny's grave because Vinny was a gangster. And so every episode's a story about a bizarre character that ends up at Crookwood.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
We're all going to end up there anyway. So that's what it is. It's Bizarre and Ben.
Yeah.
But I have 110, I think 122 subscribers, and that's awesome. I mean, I don't want to go out there and spruik it from the roof. It's like it'll go off when it's going to go off.
Yeah.
So I have belief, and I get to it at night. So I've nearly done a whole episode. On that, look. I had it open for you. It's like I'm going somewhere with this. I don't know whether you can see it. That's a timeline.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so all of this here, all of that there. So it's 17 minutes.
Yeah.
17 minutes of animation by hand with all the voices in the van. And it's good. It's good. It's good. I'm an artist. So my only way of being is creative. I'm reading a book at the moment called Rick Rubin, The Creative Act, or it's like, I'll go to a location, Stan, and you go in, and if you let the house talk to you and an idea comes, beautiful things happen. And so I'm filming every day, and that's an extension of who I am. So someone will find Mungle and Uncle Shrift and the Crookwood, but it's just not, when the time's right.
Yeah.
It's very what's anti-religion. I have an Australian Jesus nailed to a cross, and I said, I didn't nail him to the cross, right? And all I'm getting inspiration from is if you go into any church, old mate's hanging up there, every Sunday. So I didn't put him up there, but I believe Jesus would have had a sense of humor. He would have had to have a sense of humor to go through the shit he went through. So it's very anti-religious, and it pokes kind of fun at death.
Yeah,
which I think it should. Something should poke fun at death, and
definitely should.
We don't know enough about it, and we're scared about it. But like I'm a firm believer that we go on. We go on and we enjoy hundreds of lives, not just one.
Mm.
So there you go. That kind of bookends it for you.
Yeah. Well, what was your introduction to horror then? How did you kind of come across this idea of horror?
My first introduction to real horror was that skeleton in the coffin that comes out, Like I grew up in the 60s, mate, so there weren't any
Yeah.
phones. We were amused by plastic skeletons that came out of coffins and haunted homes where you moved ghosts around.
Oh, I still am.
Yeah, right. But I mean, like, so I think there's something in all of us that kind of, like, I don't know whether it's, you see, nightmare schlock horror.
Yeah.
It's and it is a genre, schlock horror. It kind of like it's a bit of a thumb in the eye of horror. See, real horror, like, if you look at, I'm a believer in energy. So you got good energy, and you got bad energy, and there is some fucking bad energy in the world, and you kind of get back what you put out. But horror is, I think, is a fine line there. I've done it in one interview before, and it's like when I was, it was one of the reasons why I left Nightmare, was I think I was 3 sequels deep. I'd done Baron Samedi, Andershot Train, and Elizabeth Bathory, and the Soul Rangers. And as I took a deep dive into this, you can feel that satanic pull. Nightmare was starting to get a bit darker, and that's when I quit. And this is a true story. When we were over in Canada and Toronto, doing those initial Toy Fair presentations, the Nightmare room that we did the presentations in, we had skulls airbrushed into all the clouds on the room. So when a buyer walked in, he was, in this dark room with an old portrait, looks like an old portrait on the wall, which is the gatekeeper, and we turn the TV on, and you go, oh, and the buyer would take a hit and buy 75,000 units. But when I came back to Australia, I had a bedroom, and I'd panelled it in wood. And over the course of Nightmare, skulls were coming through that wood. Now, I was doing a few drugs at the time, so that could have been influenced by my psyche, but I honestly felt that I was getting very close to a satanic line.
Yeah. That's scary.
It's scary, yeah. And I think it's a line you just don't want to cross. It just becomes evil. And I think, the skeletons coming out of the coffin and luminous ghosts in haunted houses, that's my kind of horror,
Yeah.
And cartoons. And if you look at the art direction of Nightmare, it was always on that schlock horror side. It wasn't Exorcist with the head spinning around, but dog levitating and vomiting, because there is 2 sides to horror. I think, that what you've got behind you is schlock horror.
Yeah.
It's an awesome style of artwork. I think it pokes fun at death. That shit.
Yeah.
That's the fascinating part about it, because we're all going there, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm not dead now, Stanley. Seriously, I've done a lot of stuff filming in my life. I should be long dead, but
Well,
I'm not.
You're still here.
I'm an alien.
You're not done yet.
No. A lot of people wish I were, or a few people wish I were.
Yeah. So coming back into the present, sort of with Crookwood, what are the sort of like the pros and cons of editing? Not editing. Sorry. What are the pros and cons of animating, compared to live action?
Look, you know what? It's a really good question. Fresco, and I thoroughly recommend. I mean, Procreate is done by a Tasmanian company. It's an awesome application, Procreate. And I started in Procreate, but it wasn't Vector, so I moved over to Fresco about 5 years ago. Well, like, it's on a pad. Like it's an iPad that does the job miraculously, incredibly, of an entire animation studio. Like, you can do it on your lap. Like, and the animation style that I I've tried to perfect is I draw every single individual part separately, like a nose, and I animate the nose. But then I've got the nose animated, so I can go back and reuse that side profile of the nose animated. So I treat the nose as an animal. So I think where Vinny does, I've done a scene there which was a nod to Al Pacino's Scarface, Meet My Little Friend. Did you see that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, the cocaine one where he's not in the coke. Every part of him moves independently. Like it's not 3D animation getting knocked out in Korea. It's not AI 3D. It's kind of organic. And I think the pad and the pen does that. But you've got to animate individual. I do 12 frames, and then it seems to work at 25 frames a second when I dump it on a timeline. So the way you do it is you do frame by frame, 12 frames, and Adobe Fresco's got an animate feature, so you can just like animate a whole string of them, and then I export them as a PNG file and open that zip file, bring them into Photoshop as an image sequence. So it opens up 140 illustrations, and open the timeline, the video timeline, and export it. Yeah,
simple.
It's a process. Which is why it's taken about 2.5 years, 3 years to do 17 minutes. But I've got the 22, and I'm just wondering whether I make I don't know whether I've introduced Mongrel who likes digging, which is why I got the gig as a grave digger, and he doesn't know at this point in time that Uncle Shrift's a cannibal, who's a monster that eats people. And the reason why he eats people, Stan, is have you ever seen a monster eat anybody? Have you?
I'm not sure that I have.
No, I don't know why. Obviously, it's the monster eats people, but fuck, don't show him eating someone. So I thought, I'll show.
Yes, it's always implied, but it's never shown.
Yeah, so he eats a torso. And if you look at the torso, it's like a chicken, the chicken leg. And I was reading a book once on AI, and they went, when AI works out what we've done in industrial farming to animals, because pigs have the same biology as us. Their mothers suckle their piglets for 8 or 9 weeks, and we industrially farm them and make them do that in a week. It's dreadful. When AI works out what we've done to industrial farming, they'll probably go, well, why can't we industrial farm humans? So that's another kind of influence on Carny Island. He eats people.
Yeah.
And has industrial machines that chop people up. But that's, again, if you're robbing graves and you get caught by Uncle Shrift, you're going to get a bit of yourself eaten. So it all ties back to the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, he eats people. There's a lot of blood. But it's only comic blood. It's not real blood, You'll see more blood at a football game.
Yeah, I guess.
I was watching we play rugby league over here. I was watching the Dally M Awards last night, and all those poor bastards that were on camera, their faces are all smashed up. It's like, you'd think they put makeup on them before they appear on telly. It's like the Academy Awards for rugby league players. They all like they've been dragged through a hedge backwards. Anyway.
Well, yeah. So going back to Atmosphere.
Yep.
In the second game in the series, the Baron Samedi expansion,
yeah,
I found that there are 2 versions of this, and in one of them, in the last minute, Baron Samedi's eye is hanging out of its socket.
Yeah.
And did that cross the line? Is that why there's 2 versions? What's the deal with it?
Well, he's got his brain,
yeah,
under his hat.
Yeah.
I think I had lights in his brain, like I don't think they worked, but we are going to have, like thoughts, and his brain was
Oh,
going to
right.
come, like the neurons racing, but I don't think that worked quite as well as we'd hoped. But yeah, he had all sorts of things kind of coming off him.
Yeah.
I think Elizabeth Bathory started across the line.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That was dark. I don't think Baron Samby did. No, I think we were still having a bit of fun with him. That was still fun. The tragedy, the great screaming tragedy about Atmosphere, and I was doing a CD-ROM game in London. I lived in Brighton with a company down there for months and months and months, and we'd chosen CDI because it was a better visual application, and we'd actually created a real graveyard to scale in a huge car park, and we'd rendered it all we'd rendered it all, and I'd written felt like thousands of responses from the gatekeeper that could be randomized. So you could never play this thing twice. It would be impossible. And it was always fresh. And we'd done a whole lot of clever things with names and stuff. And unfortunately, CD-ROM came out and a little game called Doom, and that just blew us off the stage at the New York Chicago Games Festival, I think. They had a lot of disappointment in America. And that was when that died. But, I thought with the Kickstarter opportunity recently, I think one reader called it the Vimeo board game nightmare, or Vimeo board game, which I thought was telling, because, they got $250,000. Yeah. That's a golden opportunity to say to Wenanti, let's, reinvent the whole thing and do it properly. And they could have come up with a cracking game.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Cracking game. I mean, I lost my copyright in the word nightmare, but, there's nothing really stopping me doing another video board game like Nightmare. And I've toyed with it. And I've got a crazy idea for the board is actually a downloadable file that you put in a 3D printer. So you print your own board and then paint it. So I've got a crazy idea for a next generation Frightmare kind of game like that. I just haven't. I've got to finish the Crookwood.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever want a playtester, I'm here.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm sure we met for some reason, Stan. So I don't usually go, yeah, let's have a chat about Nightmare. No worries. I keep a pretty low profile these days. I had a big social media presence about 10 years ago. I had about 55,000 followers. And I'd go into work every day and these pricks would be saying, oh, can I have your settings, please? And it's just like, hang on. What? Anyway, it was a Vimeo account, and I had more followers than Phil Bloom, but it just did my head in every day having to answer all this stuff. So I deleted all my social media presence. I have an Instagram account, which is Uncle Shrift, which I try and keep up every now and then, and I've got a Carny Island one, I think, and then I've got my filmmaking account, but I keep it pretty low profile. The films I make these days are released by my clients, and they get all the glory, which is where it should go, and not to the filmmaker. No. But yeah, I'll keep you in mind as a game tester on Frightmare. I like the idea of the 3D.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, it's cool.
Yeah, because I want to be a prop maker, and so that idea to me is just. I would love a game like that.
Right. Well, everyone's got access to a 3D printer, and I like all my illustrations are in obviously 3D. So I just thought, because everything in Nightmare, everything in Carny Island or Crookwood, every person has a sketch, like, it's got layers because they've got organs under them. So when I draw a character, he's got a skull under his head, and there's a brain in the skull. So it's all put together like that. And the graveyards are all the same. I've done all the subterranean tunnels around Crookwood, because, you know, if you're going to do a video game, you've got to have it all down pat, because these things get very complex and explode very fast. So, you know, I'm very aware of budgets getting out of control in video gaming. So I was determined to make sure that when someone said, well, what's a tombstone like? It's like, well, here's the tombstone from every angle, and here's 25 different varieties of them.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah. My next question. This is kind of like a mystery to me.
Questions on Atmosphere. Now we've done the Crookwood. It's good.
Okay, nice. So this is a mystery to me.
Prepare for a scare. Trina, Daniel, and Zane planned for a quiet night of fun and games.
Oh, cool. There's a monster movie marathon starting at 9.
Until some unexpected guests
Where'd he come from? He wasn't there a minute ago, was he?
threw some life into the party.
Are you ready to have some real fun? Waiting up for me?
Night of the Living Dummy 3.
Gotcha!
And what is it that you're saying? That the dummies got up on their own?
From the pages of Goosebumps, R.L. Stein's books for kids comes an all-new and exciting video
All right.
to share with those you love.
Abracadabra!
To scare.
Oh, I love that trick.
It's fun.
In a twisted sort of way.
It's freaky.
Please tell me you're joking.
It's only on video.
I guess nobody wants to watch the monster movie marathon anymore.
Buy Night of the Living Dummy 3 on video.
You didn't say please.
So this is a mystery to me. So at the end of the Elizabeth Bathory Atmosphere, of course, there was a teaser for the Khufu Atmosphere.
Yes.
And I've always wondered, like, how far into production was Khufu? Did you just immediately stop, or had you written a script?
Yeah, I wrote Khufu. The concept of Khufu, and I think if one of the Atmosphere posters you might be able to see it, was Khufu was obviously a pharaoh, and he'd gone to the other side, but he sold out. You know, he sold out, and he came back and he sold all the spaces in the Valley of the Kings to sponsors, like, you know, Coca-Cola and Macca's, and so, like, all of the Valley of the Kings had been horrifically commercialized, you know, which is a dreadful thing to even think of. I mean, can you imagine a Coca-Cola logo on the Great Pyramid? I mean, you know, they would advertise on the Great Pyramid if they had a chance. So Khufu was the world he came from. So it was a very bizarre, ad-driven trip down commercialization. And he had stuff coming out of his eyes, and he obviously decayed, and so he was done. Gavorden was done. The only one I didn't do was Helen. She's she's a character that was kind of like, you don't want to open the toy box, because that was actually the door to the other side. That was the one I was never going to do Helen. And Helen should never be done. That was kind of like the one toy you never really want to go near. But it needed that. That was where the line was. So they'd done Khufu. And I saw Khufu, and he's standing like I don't know. Like, it was like, what the hell? I think he was standing in a circle, like the gatekeeper's standing in a circle of flame. It's just like, he's only a head. It was never meant to be a body, you know, like it lost. And, you know, there's been so many versions of re-releases of this game. As I said, it's like there's been more versions of Atmosphere Nightmare than Harry has released documentaries.
Well, yeah, I didn't know it got that far. I mean, I thought it was just like you had come up with the concept and then it was dropped. I didn't know that you had gotten that far into development of it.
Oh, I wrote everything out to Helen and the Soul Rangers, and we'd done that board, on a CAD computer in London. The 6 sides that kept, the subterranean, and the Soul Rangers and Dr. Mastiff, and we'd also done a glimpse at a sci-fi version of Nightmare, which took us into virtual reality and helmets. So it had pretty far. I went to LA in 95, 94, I think. I left a couple of cowboys just because, I had a yearning, like all filmmakers, to go to the States. I went there. I just wasn't good enough as a director to compete. I ended up shooting a lot of beer ads, and a lot of beer ads. But when I went to LA Film School, I just wasn't good enough as a director to crack that land. But because I left my company here, that was if you leave, we're going to take your copyright. And I didn't know it then, but I'd given my accountant power of attorney. And so I just left and went, fuck it, you can have the lot. I don't care, I'm going. So I left, and that was it. That's when I finished. 94, probably 94, yeah.
Yeah.
As I said, it's been raked over and rehashed and re-released more times than I've had breakfast. But yeah, it was yeah.
I mean, me and my friend, I think we're only really we stopped meeting up like for years, and then when we met back up, we just played Atmosphere loads and loads and loads. And so we actually decided, what if we tried to make one of these? And so I thought that we would attempt to make a Gavorden Atmosphere, and I'll quickly run and get the art, if you'll bear with me for a second.
Oh.
I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see this, but in Photoshop...
that looks cool. That looks great. That looks great.
Oh, thanks.
That looks really good. You got the font right. Yeah. You see, that looks good.
Yeah.
Have you spoken to Philip about that?
No, I'm not. I mean, basically, with Philip, with the 30th anniversary...
the personality of a pet rock, Tanner.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said he's got the personality of a pet rock. A lot of people call Philip Tanner the smiling assassin.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because he's a smiling assassin. But anyway, he owns the, as I said, he owns the copyright to Nightmare.
Yeah.
The characters he doesn't own. They're all very much,
of course, yeah.
They're all very much in the public domain. Baron Samdi, Gavorden, none of them are copywritten. Yeah. None of them are copy. So there's absolutely nothing stopping you releasing Gavorden as a board game, as a video board game. You can't use the word atmosphere. I think that's right. But everything else, believe it or not, you can do. He owns diddly squat. There's no trademark. We did have a patent on Nightmare, but Universal ripped it off with Star Trek, the video board game, and we didn't defend that patent. It would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend a patent. And Universal supplied Roadshow with video titles. So Roadshow was never going to sue Universal. So the concept of the video board game was never protected and isn't protected. Anyone can do a video board game tomorrow. And you could do the video board game Gavorden tomorrow. Just get a really great dark actor, black actor, like with dreadlocks, and just work a little bit. Well, if you look at Nightmare, the original Nightmare, it was just a hit. Because like when you're talking to someone like this, that's it. Like you only need to You not only need to put him in some, if I was going to do Gavorden today on a no budget, you'd probably want to get a lot of brambles and, like thorns.
Yeah.
So you'd get a lot of them. You just get a black studio, stick the thorns in, and get a really, really, really good Shakespearean black actor with awesome dreadlocks. And then just get a good prosthetic artist that's going to, enhance his look. When you look at Wenanti, really minor makeup, that we used. Basically, it was all theatrical lighting. A guy called Sam Beanstalk, who did the lighting on Mad Max, he did all the lighting on Nightmare, and we had little bits of green cellophane, gel, and he was just adjusting the whole colors. It was all done with lighting, and then Bob Campbell and Marilyn McPherson, I think, they did the prosthetic makeup. Bob was an awesome prosthetic artist, and it's just very mild. If you look at the makeup, I mean, the most advanced makeup was probably Bathory, and the Chartrain didn't have a lot. I mean, that was just, and Baron Samdy's brain. But I think, like that's all. Because you're going somewhere, you only need to spend it at the end. So I think you probably shoot it on a fucking iPhone, mate. You could. Certainly do the game tests on an iPhone with a really great theatrical actor with a great voice,
Yeah.
And the board is just a forest. So and the other thing that made Nightmare great was the time cards. I wrote hundreds of those things, but they were all designed to kick each other off. I don't know whether you ever played, 15, someone screams, and there's so many scenarios that I wrote. If someone screams at 4:15, do this. So, they just set off this chain reaction of weirdness, that I actually got the idea of watching a hypnotherapist. He'd hypnotize a whole audience. And on keywords, this whole audience went bizarre. People get them back like dogs. What the fuck? So that was that was the game behind, that was the concept. But yeah, you could do Gavorden tomorrow, Stan. Tomorrow. You could.
Yeah.
Nothing stopping. Nothing stopping you. No one can do a thing. You are inspired by Nightmare Atmosphere, and as long as you don't use the word Nightmare Atmosphere, done.
Yeah.
Don't
So
use the video, bored. Easy.
Yeah. So my next question is:
there's a lot of fans that want to do games, and I think they should. I don't think Philip owns squat, mate. He owns the name. That's it.
Well, there is another game that you worked on, and it's called Rap Rat. And basically, my Halloween special this year on my YouTube channel, because of course there's a lot of stuff that surrounds this game. People think it's cursed. People find it terrifying.
I know. Someone came across Carny Island, and they reckoned it was possessed. Like I don't know who it was, but they're obviously a Bible basher, and they've gone, this is a satanic site, which is fucking not. It's not. It's bent, but it's not satanic, and I'm not, sacrificing fucking animals there. And Rap Rat was bent, but Roadshow wanted a game that appealed to kids. So, the Rap Rat was born. Fucking it's bent. I mean, it's a bent thing, isn't it? It's a bent. It's like someone actually said to me the other day that Mongrel looked a bit like a rat. I redrew him. I don't know whether you've noticed. He's gone through this metamorphosis, but I've got rid of the nose. And I went, yeah, you're right. It looks like a fucking Rap Rat, which is obviously rolling around in the recesses of my mind. And I've given him this kind of bent nose. And I went, yeah, Mongrel's not a rat. Someone called him a rat. My friend said, he looks like a rat. He's not a rat, it's a dog. I had to redraw his nose. So, you'll see if you go back on Carny Island, you see the original, because I think there's 102 videos up there now. The very first few videos you were seeing the gameplay. I don't know whether you've watched them, but where the rockets are being launched because they're destroying the villains that try and attack the graveyard. Anyway, I regress, but yeah, he got more rat-like as I was drawing, so I had to put him into the animator's plastic surgery and fix his mush, mate.
Yeah, I mean, my child's Halloween special this year, what I did is I took the video from Rap Rat and I removed the music, I edited it so that I could sort of like not have a conversation with the rat, but so that like at one point he says return a piece of a puzzle and I don't, and so he just says it again and again and again until I return it, and then he laughs and disappears. And so it slowly gets more cursed as the video goes on, and yeah.
It's not. There's nothing satanic in Rat Rat. There was nothing ever evil about it. I've seen YouTube videos that say that it comes from a satanic operator, and you play it backwards, and fuck off. Like,
yeah, people genuinely believe it.
I know. Rat Rat Roadshow wanted to do a nightmare for kids. Obviously, I couldn't scare the fuck out of kids, so I come up with a rat. And a rat eats cheese, and we had this great animatronic rat made. And I think Mark Timone was the rat. Like, one of my mates was just, the open. It was all mechanical, and it was very, very funny. I mean, I went through this period where I had a lot of animatronic animals. We redid Wonderworld, actually, called it the new Wonderworld. But the host of Wonderworld, Simon Townsend, he had this dog. And the dog had obviously died. So we had an animatronic dog made called Woodrow. And then we had an animatronic cat made. So that's where the animatronic shit came from. I just went through a period of animatronics. That's when, and then the rat was there, The rat, I don't know whether the rat came before the dog. Around about the same period, we were exploring animatronics. That's where the rat came from. Because we didn't have the iPad. Like, had I done Rat today, it would have just been animated, just animate the thing, and write a couple of programs. With Carny Island, I've actually got this program, and Uncle Shrift will call you Stan. Hi, Stan.
Oh, that's great.
Like, you can do some wonderful shit.
Yeah.
I built all the puppets in Adobe, so, and then I animated them, so all the bits are there, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the casting of Carny Island, are these all different people? The voices, or are they all the same person doing the voices?
I came across. No, well, I do Mongrel.
Yeah.
I'm the dog, obviously. And a audio company in Tasmania called Abe's Audio. There's a character actor there. He does Uncle Shrift. And Shrift's right, because I've got to be very careful, because he costs me a bit of money. So I have to be really careful with Uncle Shrift. He's about to make a bit of a comeback, actually, because this is where you can help. I don't know. I've got Mongrel revealing how he got a job at Crookwood. Then I've got him revealing that he does know Shrift's a cannibal, or didn't know at that point in time. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have gone to work there. Now, I've got a bit of a hole before the episode starts, because the episode starts in the pizza shop, crematorium. And I just don't know whether I drop an episode in there with Shrift showing Mongrel around Crookwood, like, hey, this is the chapel, and introducing everybody, or if I just get straight to, it was just another ordinary day until it wasn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Do I go back in Mongrel's life, and because he was a rocket surgeon, not a rocket surgeon, not a brain surgeon. He was a rocket science. Yeah, he was the rocket surgeon. Yeah, before that. Before he was the Bhagwan. He was a Bhagwan in India. He had millions of followers. There you go. So yeah, no, I do the character. My wife does Johnny Prime. Johnny Prime's from Fox News. He pops in and out, and I don't know whether you've seen him. Does a bit of commentary.
I don't think I have.
No, he's Johnny Prime is a newsreader that pops in and out. And the other characters, I've actually been using AI voices from I think it's a UK based company called Synthesis, and it's really good. It's really good. I had Mrs. Vinny. It was all AI. Vinny himself is AI, AI voice. You got to write AI differently, or write for AI a little bit differently to force the emphasis. I mean, obviously they're going to get it right, but yeah, that's all AI.
Wow.
I think AI for that sort of stuff is great. Well, obviously AI is making so many inroads into my industry with the iPhone. I mean, I was watching a YouTube video just last night, and they had an Ariflex, an Arri, a $100,000 Arri, and they were shooting the iPhone 14, iPhone 15. And the guy that did this obviously owns a $100,000 Arri. Like they were forgetting which shot was which. You got a $1,800 phone, and people can't tell the difference between that and the pictures of a $100,000 Ariflex camera. And you know what? The general public can't.
Yeah.
Like they don't sit there for fucking hours peeping at pixels on, studio screens. They enjoy it. My wife, and probably cancer was a big awakening for me, where I just stopped being a camera wanker and started shooting on a Panasonic G5. My wife said, "Mate, we don't know what you bloody shoot it on, and we don't care." I mean, some of my recent films, I'm using. Are you familiar with Moment? The lenses, Moment lenses.
I don't think I am. No.
Moment. They do lenses for iPhones, and they release a 133 anamorphic lens. And the problem with an anamorphic lens on an iPhone, you got a little bit of bowing because the screen's so wide, you got some bowing. But I came across an app called Cinema P3, and that you can select 133 as a lens, and then a little feature which debows it. And I was shooting down at Tweed Heads on a surf break, and it looks like it's an anamorphic lens. Like the general public ain't going to know what we shot on an iPhone. So yeah. AI and everything it's doing with that camera. I'm like, you and I can walk into a room now. We can take exactly the same picture, on exactly the same lens. Everything's exactly the same. And I think it's wonderful because that levels the playing field. It doesn't matter whether you've got a fucking red, pulling your dick and, all this gear. It's like it levels the playing field. It's like the iPad and that, if you've got the imagination and you're creative, you can do anything today, which is wonderful. And it's what you do, it's what I do and what you do, where I put the light, how I move the camera, the color temperature of the light, all of that then becomes, 6 or 7 choices, which then becomes infinite. And that's wonderful because, what you're seeing in these films now is, and I've seen some fantastic films on iPhones. Soderbergh is shooting all his films on iPhone. So many Hollywood directors are going, shoot an iPhone. I mean, the 14 Pro is still getting hot and they had to keep it in eskies or freezer boxes, but in between takes, the phones are getting so hot. But, AI and what it's done there, remarkable. Remarkable. You could shoot Nightmare today on an iPhone.
Yeah, that is remarkable.
Yeah, you could go down to the local coffee shop in Piccadilly Circus, cast a black actor, do an iPhone and have it out there in a couple of weeks. No excuse, mate. Even just you could shoot at 9:16 would look good.
Yeah. Right, so
do it, Stanley.
I will. Okay, I will. Okay.
Wonderful
So
things will come from.
yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
just take that first step and go down that creative path. I said that video, that artwork sat on my table for a year with
yeah,
Nightmare Atmosphere, and I didn't know what to do. And then when it all clicked, I think we sold 4 million games.
yeah. So do you know when the Carny Island game could, or Crookwood game could be released?
Or, I think that's down to fate, really.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to complete. I'm calling it the Crookwood, which is going to be the animated series, I suppose. And I want to start with the animated series and then introduce the game off the back of that. So, like it's probably taken me. Well, I've been in remission. I started drawing when I had cancer. Been in remission now for 5 years. So I probably really got into it about 2 years ago. Really going, okay, this is Crookwood. When my wife said, do stories. So I've probably been working on it for 2 years. So I'm just waiting for the right, and an opportunity will come along. Someone will see that stuff and go, yeah, let's do this, and have a bit more money behind them to assist. Because as I said, my day job's shooting wonderful apartments and homes for some fantastic clients. So I don't have a lot of clients, but the clients I have are gold. So, and in between shooting $20 million penthouses, I draw mongrel and swim. So yeah, well, it'll happen when it happens. A bit like Nightmare.
Yeah.
It happens when it happens. It happens when when the energy's right, and the energy's good. It's good.
Nice. I think we're gonna move on to some viewer questions now.
The all-new thing. YouTube. It's the latest invention. Subscribe to all the channels, including Stan the Sedine, Mono Supreme, and even the rarest one, Mono Supreme Mania. You don't want to be a loser and not subscribe, do you? Good! So subscribe today and get lots of cool videos. Ha ha ha! Definitely nothing dodgy about this.
I think we're gonna move on to some viewer questions now.
Viewer questions.
So,
How many? I've got 120 subscribers. How many you got?
let me check. I think I have 57 or 56.
You lose 3.
But huh?
You have 60.
60?
Did you have 60?
No, I have 57. I think.
No, I thought you had 60. Were you
Let me check.
bullshitting?
I told you I had 50.
What was it, 50?
I have 56.
I thought I got 122, so I thought we had something in common. Let's chat. So, how you come across Carny Island, I'll never know, but yeah, okay. Viewer questions.
Well, none of these are actually
How many
from
lines
viewers.
have you got open there, Stanley?
Huh?
How many lines do you have open?
What?
Lines for your viewers. Like we'll go to viewer number 9, lines. Stanley, is it late there? And obviously, it's very early here. It's only 7:30. I'm primed and going.
Well, none of these are actually from viewers. They're just from people that I asked. Do you have any questions for the creator of Atmosphere? I'm just calling them viewers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Going to Edward. Ed, what question do you have for Brett? Hey, Brett.
Well, the first one comes from the channel Nightmare the Video Board Game HD, and he asks, huh?
Your channel called that?
Yep. They upload
awesome.
like HD versions of the Nightmare board games, VHS tapes.
Probably better quality than bloody the Kickstarter shit.
Yeah, probably. And they ask, is there any behind the scenes like footage or photos that we haven't seen?
I actually found some in a box about 3 months ago and launched them up onto that Atmosphere fan club page.
Yeah.
On Facebook. Atmosphere?
Yeah.
So there's a whole, if you go there, there's a few of them. Yeah. I had one from the boardroom in Canada. There's quite a few actually, up there. Yeah.
Nice. And so now we'll move on to Luca, who asks, "How did you
Hey,
decide
Luca.
How did you decide which characters you wanted to use?"
Um, oh, I just started researching horror characters, really, and I mean, back then, we didn't have the internet, mate. Like the internet wasn't around. I think the internet only lobbed at about 93 in Australia, with Apple eWorld. But so I had to go to the library and read books like the Encyclopedia Britannica and what happened to the witch hunts and like that sort of stuff. So it was like really traditional library research. I spent weeks in the library going, a zombie, and Baron Samedi was kind of the craziest zombie I came across. And then it was the witch hunts and what they did to those poor women. They like, hey, you're a witch, I'm going to burn you. Oh, you're right. That's like, what the fuck? That was dreadful. And so that was how Anne de Train came along. And I cast Frederique in Paris. I went to Paris and found her. And she touched my, she just had something, Frederique. She's a very famous actress now, apparently, Fred.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She's good, great actress. And Elizabeth, she played Elizabeth, I think, as well. Yeah. So yeah. There was just research and finding, and Gavoiden was also a werewolf. So they're all all historical except Helen, and Helen was just hell in. Hell in. That was where the name came from, and she was just a very, very bad poltergeist that you don't want to open the box.
Yeah. So now, huh?
Yeah, good.
So now Jackson asks, "Why is the Harbingers game so one-sided and unfair?"
Because I didn't write it.
Good answer.
I mean, like, I don't think that there wasn't enough testing. Nightmare's a game of chance, a game of luck, but you still got to play it a lot. Like any game, you got to play it a lot to make sure it all balances out. And that was just too heavily weighted to beat them. It's a complex game. I think the gameplay in there was actually quite tactical.
Yeah.
And I think, it was quite a tactical game. It was really, take control of the land and then turn it into a subterranean under the graveyard. Yeah, there was a lot of tactics in there, and I think maybe we just didn't do enough testing. I don't think we just did enough testing to get that the formulas right. And it should have been. Yeah, I mean, it should have been more driven by AI and more driven by computer technology, I think, and apps. And we should have gone. That's what it shouldn't have been, a VHS fucking machine driving that thing. It was, the VHS was done. We should have moved very fast to CDI or CD-ROM. Yeah. And obviously today, 12 terabytes on iCloud, away you go.
Yeah. So the final question comes from Elwood, and he asks, "What are your thoughts on cardboard?"
Cardboard?
Yep.
Well, we've fucked up the planet, is my thoughts on cardboard. Big time. When I was in Los Angeles, we did a TV show, an underwater show called The Aquanauts. It was actually called Planet Ocean. And, we looked at what we've done to the world's oceans. Discovery wouldn't put most of the stories to air. Like we'd come back with stories and they go, sorry, we can't put that story to air. There's not enough hope in it. Well, there's no hope. All the fucking animals are dead on the beach. So they don't have any hope. And today, the modern media still refuses. I mean, like just accepting the fact we've got climate change only recently. And for fuck's sake, the world's going underwater. We've got massive storms. We've been destroying the natural environment. So cardboard and plastic, yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, I think recycled cardboard's good. I think we were using a bit of recycled cardboard in Europe. I think we had to. But yeah, no, cardboard's bad shit.
Well,
Is that a good answer? Was that the answer that Luca was looking for?
I have no idea. Okay, so sort of like
digital's better.
The sort of final-ish question. This comes from me again. What is your advice for people who want to get into the industry?
Do it. Like, just do it. I mean, they've got no excuse. And this is serious advice. Being an artist is a lonely, vulnerable position. It just is, no matter whether you're a singer, a poet, a writer, an actor. All of the people that are great artists are extremely sensitive. And you have to be. I mean, I love, don't take it personally, but, that sucks. It's like, well, fucking hell am I going to take it? I'm a person. Of course I'm going to take it personally, you fuckwit. It's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Don't take it personally. And I've heard that all my life. But, every day of my life, every day of my professional life, well, probably since about 11, I've made something. I've drawn something. I've made a film. Like sometimes I made 3 or 4 films. Or done 5 or 6 drawings. So every day of my life, I've made something. So you got to make it. You don't make it, it's not going to fucking happen. So, you look at all the great cars. Walt Disney went bankrupt, I don't know how many times. Like Ren and Stimpy. If you look at all of those stories, they were all pen to paper. It was all pen to paper, and they all had a belief that was, they just did it. So I think you just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Not going to do it. If you don't do it, nothing's going to happen, is it? But if you do it, you don't know where it's going to lead. Like, when I got your email, and I thank you because you're interested. So that's wonderful. And of course I'll have a chat to you because you don't know where it's going to go. Okay, you've only got 50 followers. I've only got 120. But, you're one person away from 1 million or 2 million. You're one person away that goes, I really like that. I mean, you look at these Instagram influencers and like, whoa, 50 million followers, and they bake cakes. Bake fucking cakes. So, just draw. Just draw. Get an iPad and bloody draw. And this is none of these endorsements are paid, but Procreate is releasing an application in November. It's called Dream, and it's a 2D animating application. Not that expensive. I think $19 or something. So you can be an animator on an iPad for $19 2D. So that's certainly worth looking at. But yeah, draw. You look at Tim Burton's stuff, and his drawings were all behind most of the movies that he's done. Like Edward Scissorhands, all the drawings. If you look at, they're all drawings, and just do it. Just you got nothing to lose, and you don't know where it's going to go, especially today. One Instagram post, millions of.
Yeah.
Like, look at all these rock stars. The fucking one YouTube video, and they're next minute they're on stage fucking with 1 million people. It's crazy, kid.
Yeah.
Do it.
Oh,
just do it. Do it. You're going to do that Gordon thing, mate. Go down to the coffee shop, find a black actor, and just do it. there'd be somebody out there, a young filmmaker out there with the 15 Pro, and the 15 Pro Max shoots 4K log, so it shoots to a hard drive. Yeah, that and a fucking microphone, and away you go, sunshine. You've got no excuse. You can make one post. You get a filmmaker that would absolutely want to do it. Get an actor that would absolutely want to do it. You know, like the technology that you have available right now compared to the shit that we had to do. You know, like we had to draw that shit with real pens and pencils and airbrush it. You know, you got this, you know, you could smack out a video board game or, you know, an internet game on your phone using the Nightmare gameplay tomorrow.
Yeah.
You've got no excuse, Stan. None.
That's true, I guess.
You got it in your head, go do it. I mean, there's an actor in wherever you are, as an actor sitting in a coffee shop right now, and he's a really cool black dude, and he's just ready for you, mate. He's got a wolf in him. Wolfie. Seriously. That's, gameplay it, done. Do it, Stan.
Yeah, so thank you so much for this interview.
Pleasure. It was an absolute pleasure.
There's not much else to say. Thank you so much. Without Atmosphere,
let's check in again when we've both got a couple of million followers. It's all going on, and Mungle's a superstar. And we'll look back at this and go, "Fuck! Do you remember when we were talking about that?"
Yeah.
Have a great day, mate.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good night.
You too, man. Well, good morning for you.
See ya.
Bye. Well, that was Brett Clements, the creator of Atmosphere. So, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it provided some answers to some questions that Atmosphere fans have been wanting for a while. And please do like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you for watching.